in a covenant with Mary. Reverend Father Kentenich's attachment to Mary was taken over by the communities he founded and became a personal covenant of love with her. In this way, Mary becomes the mother and educator of Christians. The process of foundation, which took place on 18 October 1914 in Schoenstatt, Germany, was the start of this living covenant of love and consecration to Mary as it is practiced in Schoenstatt. The covenant they entered into in this way was by no means a one-sided affair. Nothing without you, nothing without us. His belief and conviction motivated him in 1929 to say, "In the shadow of this shrine, the fate of the world and the church at the shores of a completely new era will be essentially influenced for centuries."
Father Kentenich was a natural and a passionate educator. As a fruit of his work as an educator, Father Kentenich developed an original pedagogical concept which gradually became more and more defined and which came to be known as Schoenstatt pedagogy. It has 5 characteristic guiding stars: pedagogy of ideals, pedagogy of trust, pedagogy of movement or development, pedagogy of bonding, and pedagogy of the covenant. At the time, a rationalistic way of thinking fascinated people, especially the intelligentsia, and led to a dangerous distortion. Father Kentenich called for this mechanistic and separatistic way of thinking to be overcome because it was so destructive. In his opinion, this could only be done by an organic way of thinking, living and loving, which leads us to see things as a whole.
The key to Father Kentenich's approach to life and the world in his conviction that God is at work in the ups and downs of our personal lives and the developments in the church and society. He accepted that they have a positive role to play in the religious life. However, a living faith is a practical belief in divine providence, which means keeping our ear at the heart of God. He had his hand on the pulse of time and his ears close to the heart of God. His spirituality is strongly rooted in the world and in history, so that our actual living becomes a conversation with God, and reading the newspaper becomes a prayer. The aim is not merely to pray in everyday life, but to make everyday life a prayer. Father Kentenich called the spirituality that developed out this attitude workaday sanctity.
His motto from the first was, "All for Schoenstatt." Schoenstatt for the church for the triune God. These words mirror his deepest desire and intention. What did that mean for him and his movement? As a member of the church, we wanted to penetrate the church like yeast and constantly, repeatedly saturate it with new life. All for the church, however, means and must mean. It depends on the hierarchy of the church, especially the Pope. In 1947, shortly after the promulgation of the Constitution, provided matter, which created a place for secular institution in the legal framework of the church. Father Kentenich was received in private audience by Pope Pius XII and was able to present his foundation to him. This constitution was an important step forward for his institution he had found, which now had a place in the church and the world. The fundamental attitude and aim has been immortalized on his tomb in the words, "Dilexit Ecclesiam." He loved the church.